Are you new to Borderlands or a veteran of the franchise? I have the information to tell you all about Borderlands 4 new weapon part mechanics. Hey guys, it's Tweety Expert here, ready to tell you all about the gear parting system in Borderlands 4 that is inherently very different from all of the different Borderlands in the franchise. The core system of Borderlands 4's part mechanics is that each gun can have a completely different variance of feel and shooting and accuracy based off all of the different parts that can randomly roll onto those specific guns. Like some underbarrels can only be on specific Maliwan shotguns or on specific Jakobs ARs, but that gives the ability that those guns specifically can have traits that other guns cannot necessarily have either, making those ones special in specific ways too. So each gun or equipment is made by a specific company. There on that equipment, you can see variants of different parts that go onto that gun itself. We have a lot of companies that we know and love from previous Borderlands, like Maliwan, Tediore, Torgue, Valdof, and Jakobs, but also a lot of new companies to the franchise too. This includes Daedalus, Order, and Ripper-based guns. Now, it doesn't mean we won't see the other companies that we have seen in previous Borderlands, like Atlas, COV, Hyperion, because those parts can be on other weapons or items. Like a Jakobs AR is going to have Torgue stickies on it, per se, and every time you shoot that Jakobs AR, it's going to embed Torgue stickies onto that enemy as well. So you're going to get crit spots that are going to ricochet because of the Jakobs aspect, and then Torgue stickies are going to explode onto that individual target and also be able to ricochet using the Jakobs property. Or you can have a Valdof-based weapon that has a COV mag on it, where you can spray out a whole mag of bullets without stopping to fire if you don't let it overheat instead. The combinations that Borderlands are able to make with these gun parts makes any combination almost possible, but that also makes some combinations completely not workable in any instance. One of the bad combinations could be an Order sniper with a Ripper mag on it, where you're going to have to charge up the Ripper first, and then you're going to have to charge up the Order charge time secondarily, making it where there's no point you're charging forever. It's worth noting that the rarity affects how many parts an item can have. So for a white item, it's going to have no extra mod spots. So if a Ripper gun drops, it's going to have that charge up, but nothing else. While a green or an uncommon is going to have similarly, if it's a Ripper gun, it's going to have that charge up, and then it could have Jakobs on there as well. That scale goes up for rares or blues having 2, epics or purples having 3, and legendaries are also similar at 3, but one of those spots is taken up by the legendary aspect. So that legendary is going to have the aspect that makes it special to that legendary gun, but it's going to have 2 secondary parts that can be added onto that. Legendaries are going to have that aspect and 2 bonus parts, which allows for a little bit less variance than purples, but purples having 3 separate spots allows for a combination that cannot be replicated by legendaries. This makes it where purples are absolutely worth looking at the entirety of a playthrough and through endgame, because 3 combinations of perfect parted purples can be insane. The rarity doesn't mean that all of those mod slots will be open though. So although a purple can have 3 extra mod slots, it doesn't mean all of those slots will be filled. That means the blues could be perhaps parted better than purples, because the purple maybe only spawn with 1 extra part. So I would say while you're leveling, look at all the greens, blues, and purples, besides even go after the legendaries, as most other guns can be usable if parted correctly or in some combination that you like using yourself. Let's go over each base company's specific way that it functions. Let's look at Daedalus first. Daedalus uses 2 different ammo types to technically count the gun as 2 different types of gun. So this means you can use something as an SMG, you can use something as a shotgun, effectively change the different fire rate that it can do too. I don't find this company to be too impactful, but it can be very helpful if, 1, you're running out of ammo constantly on a specific type, which doesn't seem to be such a problem for Borderlands 4. So say something can be an SMG and something can be a shotgun. You can use the shotgun in a specific way where you have buffs from an enhancement where the shotgun damage goes up, and if you use that secondary mode for shotguns, you're going to get the benefit instead of SMG, just allowing for another usable gun in this category. Jakobs is back, in my opinion, in Borderlands 4. They really feel hefty and chunky in the damage that they do. So they're always going to be semi-auto, and the crit hits will ricochet projectiles to nearly any enemy. Jakobs is extremely, extremely strong in this game. As the base Jakobs gun are not necessarily the craziest, They are more just really good damage at a slow fire rate. The Jakobs' inherent part can be put on other guns to make sure that every crit hit that they do on that gun will ricochet projectiles to nearby enemies, making it where sometimes those builds can ricochet projectiles and those projectiles ricochet again, making an entire enemy just filled with a bunch of projectiles across the entire arena. Jakobs just has great damage overall, and any of those guns are really nice to level up with as well. Maliwan is a very solid company in Borderlands 4, allowing build diversity by giving you a chance to choose between 2 different elemental types of damage. Of course, those damage types are going to be from incendiary, shock, corrosive, cryo, radiation, allowing your build to be specific into one where that gun can roll with something that you're going to use a lot, and maybe using a shock secondary shooting where you can blast somebody's shields away, but it's not necessarily the main damage that your build is doing at that time. Just a reminder that every time you use an elemental weapon, there are specific buffs and debuffs depending on the enemy that you're fighting. So if they have armor, corrosion is going to be a more applicable tool and will take out more of their armor than if you're using a shock weapon instead for that armor. I'll put up a chart here to show you all the different damage types, and if you're using the elements wrong in this case, you can learn and boost your damage by even up to like 50%. Now onto order guns. It kind of seems to be a personal preference as if you really like order guns, or majority seems to not really think it's very beneficial in this case, because you hold to charge up to fire and you have to hold to charge up 5 ticks, and that when that 5 ticks is done and you let go, it's going to shoot all 5 of those bullets forward. Now in my opinion, I don't feel like that charge up per firing of 5 bullets is very beneficial, because one, I can't aim very well, so that 5 bullets is going to go off into a random direction instead of me blasting a bunch of bullets and hopefully more of those landing than the 5 shots going off and dinking on a wall. Now for damage capabilities, order snipers can use this a lot better, because that base damage with a bullet that is a sniper caliber does a lot of damage in one. So if you can take up 5 of them, not miss your shot like I do, and hit a crit spot, it can actually do quite a bit of damage. But all the different variants don't really have that same oomph in my opinion, but you can try it out for yourself and see if you like it too. Ripper is new to the franchise, and its special thing is that you must hold to charge up before you full auto fire a gun. Ripper is nice because it can turn things that were originally single fire and turn them to full auto just because it has a Ripper part on it. Tediore, our favorite little gun buddies that are able to be thrown all over the place, have a lot of different combinations that you can do in this game as well. Tediore, besides being little guns with legs that can shoot everywhere, you can throw them out and they can do damage while you're doing other things. Tediore, like all of the other games, are when you reload that gun, it's going to throw out and do something. In this case, it can be thrown where you can shoot that specific orb, or it could do more damage. Throw it out where that gun is going to go on the ground with its little feetsies and start shooting enemies for you. There's also little drone enemies where you can have a drone shot out from that gun that helps heal you or boost your damage, or attacks enemies inherently while you're doing other things. That, or you can just go full into damage where every time you throw that, it's going to create a big explosion of where you throw and reload that Tediore gun into enemies, and bosses can be melted from it too. Torgue has explosions, who would have thunk? A lot of the Torgue guns are insane. With the combination of Jakobs on it, everything multiplies, ricochets, and whatnot. But Torgue, with an addition in almost any gun, is going to either have the impact where those missile bullets are going to explode when they come into contact with something, or they're going to have a sticky aspect where they're going to hit the enemy, they're going to lock on, and they won't explode until you reload or swap your weapon or change to different alt fire type. But the impact also does really good base damage, as it's just going to do a lot of damage really quickly without having to do setups of shooting a bunch of bullets and then reloading. It's just also usable on a majority of all the guns, so if you see a Torgue part on some gun, it's most likely contributing better to it. It doesn't inherently make it any worse. Valdof is just baseline amazing. It is just a really good machine gun type of ability. Valdof in Borderlands 4 is just a really good base gun. It's what you think of when you think of a machine gun or just a Berber type of gun, where it just has a lot of capabilities of being able to build off a good base. So they're always going to be full auto, and then they're always going to have a secondary underbarrel attachment to them as well. This allows for your gun to be even more Berber, as a lot of the secondary attachments that Valdof has gives you an extra barrel to shoot from, effectively making your fire rate just a bunch more times more effective, and can go on almost any gun, allowing them to shoot faster as well. Now, if we look at Atlas, they don't have any guns in this universe. They don't have V systems or Q systems that we know and love from previous games. They have 2 licensed parts, which is their tracking darts or grenades. So as you hit an enemy, it's going to lock on that location of where those hit onto that specific type. So if you hit a crit spot, all the bullets that you're then going to shoot are going to track their way into that specific spot. So if you've tracked them all into the specific crit spot of an enemy, they're all going to go into that crit spot. Or if you hit an arm, they're all going to go to the arm and whatnot. This can be very useful if you don't want to aim, because as you hit the grenade or the tracking bullets, it's going to make all of your bullets for the next 10 seconds spew out and hit the enemy, and you can just aim into the sky if you want to. COV acts much the same as previous games, as the gun has an unlimited magazine size, but it has a heat up, and if you hit that heat up time, it will break, and you'll have to do a nice little reload animation, essentially. That does make it where a lot of the Berber guns can utilize this to their advantage, where they can shoot out more than if they had a mag gun. If you pay attention while you're using these guns and keep the heat level near the top, but don't let it go over, you can let it go down before you even get a reload animation off. This allows you to use the gun for longer times and not have to go through reload animations, effectively allowing you to put more bullets out there. Hyperion is also in this, allowing for a Hyperion grip, which is accuracy increases with continuous fire. You can allow a shield to pop up when you're ADSing with a gun and firing, allowing for extra protection while you're in the fight. And then on that shield, you can make them amp shields, absorb shields, or ricochet shields, allowing for a little extra health or damage based on what they do to that gun shield. Now, everything that we've gone over mainly affects how the gun functions and how it feels, but these secondary attachments provide something else to the gun. These attachments allow you to do something secondary to the main normal function of the gun, which either could be a harpoon, throwing a knife, it can be a taser, it can be a rail gun, and etc. Now, these secondary fires usually come with some sort of cooldown, or having the fuel in a flamethrower build back up. These alt fire types usually give you just a couple of seconds of doing something different in the fight to affect your damage with your main gun, or doing a good amount of damage with that secondary fire. So there's a Tediore attack drone where that can be thrown out into the air as it's doing damage. I can be doing damage, and it's more of a secondary thing that's happened before the fight. Or if I use something like a vial launcher, which is a big vat of acid essentially being thrown out from the gun, if it hits the enemy, they take 30% more damage for the next couple seconds. Then I can take advantage of the main gun and do a bunch of damage as fast as I can for the next 6 seconds, as everything is kind of buffed. There's also things like the knife launcher or the double flintlocks that just do a good chunk of damage every couple of seconds whenever they're reloaded. But overall, these underbarrel attachments, if you pay attention to the cooldown rates, can help you win over a fight in a boss battle or just for general mobbing. I'm planning in another video to go over some of these that are just exceptionally powerful, whether that's helping you boost your damage or doing a bunch of damage in one, being able to one-shot enemies. Some of these you need to look out for as you're leveling, as they'll give you a decent power boost if you can find one on your travels. I know this part system can be a little bit complicated at first, but you kind of just have to go with the flow, and don't be afraid to try out new variants of guns that you've never seen before. Underbarrels that seem exciting, you can always use and pick up as you go and change back to something else if you don't like it. It's one of the great things that Borderlands has, where you can just pick it up. If you don't like it, you can throw it away, trash it, or you can just pick up something else and use that instead. It's very easy in this game to change your skill tree to something that you want to try out if you unlock something, or you can change if you get something very OP and you really like using, you can change your build entirely around that gun if you would like. It's fun to try out new things while you're leveling, like different gun types or underbarrel types, or even your skill points, because it can create an entire different playthrough variant if you do a completely different tree, or you like to use a lot of shotguns this playthrough, or a lot of ARs a different playthrough, or find something specific that is like, this is insane, and you use it for a majority of that playthrough. It creates that variance, that playthrough to playthrough. It can make the game feel fresh and new again. If you do have any questions, leave it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them, and as always, tweet, see ya.
Track, no cannon, go! I missed the crit.